Let's dive right in, shall we? Max Verstappen, of course, bounced back with an absolutely dominant performance in Suzuka the entire weekend. Red Bull clinched their second consecutive Constructors' Championship. So congratulations to Christian Horner and the entire Red Bull team on a phenomenal year, I think we can all say. And even with 6 races left in the season, it's been historic. It's been so dominant. But is this the most dominant season you guys have seen? Laurence, I'll start with you first, from an F1 team in recent years.
Yeah, because I was 2 years old when McLaren went and won all but one race in 1988. So in terms of what I've seen and I can remember, they still have to finish it and close it out, because otherwise some of the Mercedes seasons are up there. I think Mercedes, missed out on two wins in 2019, I want to say. I'll have to double check that anyway. There were a few years where Mercedes got pretty close to it. But I feel like this has been something else from Red Bull. And, really Singapore was just such a one-off. And there were a few doubts about what Red Bull were doing and how they were doing it, and whether a clarification of the regulations in Singapore might have thrown Red Bull off their stride. And that was why they were slow in Singapore. But that's clearly not the case. Max went out in Japan, had this point to prove, said to Christian Horner before the race, they went and played like paddle tennis in Singapore after the race, kind of let off some steam. And he said while he was playing tennis with Christian afterwards in Singapore, that he wanted to win by 20 seconds. And he was like 0.6 seconds shy of that. And that was apparently because the blue flag got waved and a driver didn't get out of the way on the final lap. So, that kind of dominance, that ability to go from a race where they were absolutely nowhere and go back to a regular track and win by 20 seconds is massive. I think this is probably going to be the most dominant season I've ever seen.
Would you concur, Nate? Because they're the first team in Formula One history to clinch the constructors with 6 races left on the calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd echo everything Laurence said. And I think those Mercedes seasons that, and some of the Schumacher seasons, when you look back at those in the 2000s, even then it seemed like there were possibilities race to race that it was going to be difficult for Schumacher or for Hamilton to win the race. This season, Verstappen especially has just been so good that, take Singapore out of the equation, most of the races you've got to the Sunday, if he's got into turn 1 ahead, or he's been even second, third, fourth at turn 1, you've pretty much assumed he's going to win the race. So can't remember many seasons like it. Singapore was great just from a point of view of just injecting some life back into it. But Max deserves huge credit. So do Red Bull. It's been amazing. And to be honest with you, in a weird way, it's kind of impressive because they've delivered the season we thought they would when we saw the first qualifying session in Bahrain, and they were so far ahead. George Russell came out to the media after that and said they're going to win every race this season. He was very, very nearly right on that, or at least as it stands. And that's quite a big feat, because often in the first race, you can see a team very, very far ahead. They look dominant. And then, it turns out, all the other teams kind of catch up very quickly, and Red Bull just haven't let other teams do that. They've been fantastic. So yeah, it's got to be, I mean, maybe I'm missing an obvious example, but like Laurence said, there's no really obvious comparison.
Max completed his 9th hat trick of his F1 career with his pole position in qualifying, fastest lap, and then of course the race win. Now he could clinch his 3rd straight drivers' championship at Qatar. With Qatar being a sprint weekend, all he has to do is finish 6th in the sprint and he'll clinch it. Is it weird to think that he could clinch the drivers' championship on a Saturday before even going into the race, Nate?
Very weird. I was thinking about this, when we're wrapping up the coverage of Japan. Every time we've seen a champion, whether it's Abu Dhabi 21, whether it was some of Lewis's wins when he would win in Austin or Mexico, the build-up would be to the Sunday. Everything would build up to the Sunday, even if it's, Lewis needs to finish 5th, or, obviously Abu Dhabi, it went to the wire. But, there's other occasions when drivers have clinched early, all the build-up goes to that Sunday. And it will be weird if we get to Saturday, he wins it. Obviously, Red Bull, I assume, will have some kind of celebration. I'm not sure, if Qatar's the best place to kind of let loose and have that celebration as you might in other places. But then we'll all wake up in the morning and there'll still be a Grand Prix to win and a Grand Prix to race. And I assume that Max will still want to win that, regardless of whether he's won the championship or not. So it'll be a weird one. And to be honest with you, I hope he wins it on the Sunday, because I like the Grand Prix being the main event from the weekend. But I think in a weird way, it would be very fitting for Max to win it on a Saturday. His dominance has been such that he wins it in a way that no one else has ever won it before, on a Saturday in a fairly new format. I think it would just fit with this season we've seen. So it will definitely be weird. It might make Sunday easier from a journalistic point of view. I don't know. But I mean, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, Max just doesn't win championships in normal ways, does he? I mean,
No,
2021 with Michael
Fair.
Massey involved and all that went on after that. And we didn't know in the immediate aftermath whether he really was champion or not, whether Mercedes would protest, how far that would go, when we would find out. And then obviously last year in Japan, he crossed the line and he wasn't aware he'd won the championship. His team was still checking if he was champion because we'd had a shortened race that, if under one interpretation of the regulations, meant only a certain amount of percentage of points would be handed out, and actually under the correct interpretation of the regulations, the full points were handed out, and therefore he had won it. So if he does it on a Saturday, I think it's just in keeping with his way of winning titles, which is just, there's always something a little bit peculiar about it. But yeah, I think it will be odd, and well, I think this is the risk that F1 always had if they included sprint races. But I suppose the other way to look at it is that I don't think anyone has been in doubt that he would be world champion since May, more or less. I mean, as soon as he started to really, just beat Perez at every single race, it was, after Miami and then into June and July, it just became so obvious that he was going to be champion. I guess it doesn't really matter where mathematically it gets sealed, but it is a bit odd. But yeah, I guess that's just the way Max goes about winning championships.
I'm just trying to work out how he might win it next year, assuming he did. Would he reverse over the line at one of the races? Spin at do like, I don't know, like hit the wall as he crosses the line or something. Like, there's got to be, if he wins it on the Saturday, I think that'll be the theme of Verstappen. Is like, he wins championships. They're memorable, but they're also very, very quirky and weird in how he does them. I think that's a great legacy to have, I think.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.